In one of the most shocking twists of this year's trade season, a move that almost every analyst and fan believed would bolster the Lakers' championship hopes fell apart at the last possible moment. Mark Williams, a promising young center expected to become a defensive anchor for years to come, was on the verge of wearing the legendary purple and gold. Many even called this the perfect deal, a rising big man ready to slot into a roster powered by the dynamic tandem of Luka and LeBron, fortified by a strong supporting cast. Yet, in a jaw-dropping turn of events, the Lakers backed out of the trade, setting off a wave of questions and speculation. What on earth happened behind closed doors? Why did the Lakers, who've been desperate to upgrade their front court after Anthony Davis went down, suddenly decide to cancel a move that most believed would be a slam dunk? And how does this fiasco affect not just the Lakers, but also the Hornets, who nearly parted ways with one of their most talked about young talents? The truth lies in a combination of medical red flags, looming championship aspirations, and long-term strategies that collided in dramatic fashion. This unraveling saga has immediate consequences for both teams, and could reshape how other franchises approach high-risk, high-reward trades in the future. Keep watching, because as we peel back the layers on this failed exchange, we'll explore everything from the Lakers' anxiety over big man injuries to the Hornets' precarious position in the aftermath. And by the end, you may find yourself questioning whether the Lakers dodged a bullet or lost out on a franchise-changing star. For years, the Lakers have prided themselves on attracting top-tier talent. With a storied history of championship runs, they're used to making splashy moves to stay at the top of the league. After acquiring LeBron, all eyes turned to the next superstar pairing. They found that in Luka, whose brilliance had teams across the league scrambling to adjust. Despite early success, the Lakers soon faced a glaring problem. Their front court rotation often looked shaky, especially whenever Anthony Davis was absent due to injuries. This realization fueled their quest for a young, formidable center who could anchor the paint, defend the rim, and gradually become part of a post-LeBron future. Mark Williams was on their radar for months. Whispers around the league suggested that the Lakers front office had scouted him extensively, recognizing both his potential and an immediate need he could fill. While the Lakers could have pursued more experienced centers, the sense within the organization was clear. They wanted someone who could grow alongside Luka in a long-term capacity, not just a short-term stopgap. Other options included names like Clint Capella or Nick Claxton, yet Mark Williams fit the new mold of a modern NBA 5, able to block shots, finish strong, and run the floor while carrying upside that many believed could flourish next to two elite playmakers. The mindset was simple. Let's find our guy now and lock down the most important position in basketball besides lead guard. Enthusiasm was high, and leaks from sources close to the team portrayed an optimistic front office that felt they'd pulled off the perfect heist. What could possibly go wrong? But the story was only beginning to unfold. Rumors whispered of injury worries, ones that had followed Williams since his early days in the league. Most shrugged it off as typical caution around a big man. Then came the day of the physical, and everything changed in ways nobody saw coming. Yet even as fans celebrated the forthcoming arrival of a towering new cornerstone, there were subtle indicators that this trade could end in disaster. From the moment the trade discussions went public, many were convinced the Lakers had struck gold. In theory, Williams checked every box for a franchise aiming to balance winning now with sustaining future success. A 7-footer with a growing reputation for protecting the rim, he was athletic enough to run the floor in transition, an ability Luka and LeBron love in their supporting cast. Not only that, Williams was still on a relatively friendly contract, meaning the Lakers could invest in him without hemorrhaging their cap flexibility. The idea was that he would blossom into a vital cog in the rotation, while the Lakers maintained enough room to maneuver around other acquisitions and roster tweaks. For fans, the promise of a front court boasting LeBron, Davis, once healthy, and Williams was electrifying. Imagine the spacing and defensive coverage. Williams playing drop coverage on pick and rolls, Davis lurking as a help side shot blocker, and LeBron free to orchestrate the offense. Opponents would be forced to pick their poison. In certain matchups, particularly those with bigger lineups, the Lakers would finally have a legitimate answer. Meanwhile, Mark Williams' age suggested a synergy with Luka's timeline. While LeBron might be on the latter half of his career, Luka saga is still ascending, and having a center of Williams' caliber would theoretically extend the Lakers' championship window. It was a best of both worlds scenario. Keep competing at a high level now and continue thriving once LeBron eventually decides to hang it up. Looking at his numbers, Williams had shown flashes that hinted he might become a top-tier big man if he could stay on the court. Decent per 36-minute stats, a penchant for rebounds and blocks, and an improving offensive skill set led many analysts to label him a future star. But behind all the accolades and high praise, there were subtle concerns about his health. He had played fewer than 100 NBA games in multiple seasons, enough to spark murmurs about whether his body could handle the grind. The Lakers didn't take these worries lightly, but they also believed in their medical staff's capacity to keep Williams fit. Little did they know, the moment those scans and tests came back, optimism would turn to dread, and the entire landscape of the trade would implode in a matter of hours. But before we delve into what exactly was uncovered, there's a deeper layer to the story, an undercurrent of rumors and anxiety that followed Mark Williams wherever he went. Even before this dramatic cancellation, whispers circulated around the league that Mark Williams wasn't the sure thing he seemed on tape. Though the Hornets continued to showcase him as a valuable asset, insiders hinted at recurring issues that might resurface down the line. Teams looking to invest heavily in a new center paid close attention to these red flags, especially when substantial draft picks were at stake. No official reports labeled Williams as unfit to play, and he had shown in spurts that he could dominate defensively, yet unverified speculation persisted. Some claimed it was an old leg concern that never fully healed. Others suspected a lingering back issue that could flare up under heavy workloads. A few even wondered if his multiple minor injuries hinted at something more systemic, perhaps a predisposition to repeated setbacks that might shorten his peak years. For a franchise like the Lakers, desperate to preserve both short-term competitiveness and long-term stability, even whispers of a hidden chronic problem demanded serious attention. The front office, having already dealt with the complexities surrounding Anthony Davis's own health struggles, felt an extra weight. They knew investing in another big man with shaky durability could backfire spectacularly. Still, the upside was tremendous. Many professionals in the Lakers camp reportedly insisted that if Williams passed thorough medical exams, he'd be a cornerstone center. After all, multiple scouts once regarded him as a surefire lottery-level talent, if not for earlier injuries. The drama extended to Charlotte, too. Some fans there wondered if the franchise was moving on from Williams too quickly. Why trade away a young big man who'd only begun scratching the surface of his potential? Others believed the Hornets might be selling high, suspecting that the rumored health concerns were more than mere rumors. If they could offload him at a premium price, especially with the unprotected picks involved, they could save themselves from a precarious future. Ultimately, everything hinged on that one last step, the standard physical exam, but no one predicted that it would derail the entire transaction. Little did anyone realize the physical would open a Pandora's box of worries, forcing the Lakers to face a monumental decision they never wanted to make. When the Lakers acquired Mark Williams' rights in principle, they added one crucial proviso: he must pass a physical. Typically, this is a mere formality, especially if the player is already active and contributing. But for a young center with a patchy injury history, the exam became a deal breaker. Initial optimism reigned, with many presuming the tests would confirm that Williams was good to go. Yet behind the scenes, the medical staff conducted an exhaustive evaluation, far more rigorous than the typical quick check. According to people with knowledge of the situation, the team's doctors scrutinized everything from joint stability to potential stress areas that might worsen over time. Some accounts suggest that what they found was not an immediate disqualification from playing in the current season, but rather a sign that Williams might struggle with persistent problems in the coming years. The Lakers weren't just swapping a second-round pick for him. They were sacrificing a 2031 unprotected first-rounder, a valuable pick swap, and a promising piece in Dalton Connect. For an organization with championship ambitions, risking so many future assets on a player with questionable long-term durability felt reckless. Complicating matters further was the timing of the discovery. By the time the physicals results were finalized, the trade deadline had already passed. Ordinarily, in a scenario where an exam reveals unexpected concerns, teams can renegotiate. They might adjust which picks are included or ask for added compensation. However, with the clock already striking zero on the deadline, the Lakers faced a grim ultimatum: finalize the trade as is or cancel it entirely. No middle ground. No sweetening the pot to account for the medical risk. no second chance to shop around for a better offer or a replacement big man. The front office was backed into a corner, forced to choose between taking a massive gamble on a player whose future was murky or walking away from the entire deal. Ultimately, they chose to rescind. The news broke like a thunderbolt across social media. The Mark Williams trade to the Lakers was officially canceled. Fans were stunned, especially those who had rejoiced at the idea of adding a dynamic young center. The Hornets, who believed they had finally secured a treasure trove of assets, found themselves in an awkward predicament, bringing back a player they had all but shipped out. As seismic as this collapse felt, it wasn't the first time a failed physical derailed a major NBA transaction. Looking back at history reveals patterns that make this story even more dramatic. NBA history is dotted with trades that never made it past the final checkpoint due to health risks. Tyson Chandler's near move to the Oklahoma City Thunder is a classic example. Chandler, plagued by nagging injuries, initially seemed set to bolster a young OKC roster starring Durant and Westbrook, but a failed physical sent him back, humiliating all involved. Ironically, he soon became a championship piece for the Dallas Mavericks, proving that sometimes these medical red flags can be inconclusive or at least manageable under the right circumstances. Another notable instance was the Kyrie Irving-Isaiah Thomas swap in 2017. Cleveland sought a big return for shipping off Kyrie, and Boston believed they were obtaining a star in Thomas. But once Cleveland's doctors reviewed Thomas's hip, alarms sounded. The Cavs considered voiding the whole deal until Boston sweetened the package with additional draft compensation. Because that trade happened in the offseason, there was ample time to renegotiate. For the Lakers and Mark Williams, however, the trade deadline's final buzzer meant there would be no time for second thoughts or revised terms. The scenario was reminiscent of some of the league's worst nightmares. Huge deals undone, big names left in limbo, and franchises scrambling to maintain morale in the locker room. Historically, when trades fail at the last minute, relationships can sour. Players who were nearly moved may feel unwanted, and front offices have to repair chemistry issues. In this situation, Charlotte faces the challenge of reintegrating Williams, who may now wonder where he truly stands with the Hornets. Fans, too, are left questioning whether the organization tried to offload a cornerstone piece just to rid themselves of a potential problem. On the Lakers side, the short-term disappointment is palpable. For a fan base used to big moves that pay off immediately, the abrupt reversal feels like a gut punch. Yet these same fans also appreciate the caution. If the front office truly believes that Williams' health outlook is too risky, backing away was the pragmatic choice. But the canceled trade doesn't solve the Lakers' pressing issues at center. Far from it. Let's see how this sudden change of plans affects their front court rotation moving forward. After the trade fell through, the Lakers found themselves in a precarious position. They had openly communicated that Mark Williams was meant to fill a critical gap in their rotation. Without him, the team must rely heavily on Jackson Hayes, originally projected as a backup rather than a starter on a contending squad. In certain matchups, Hayes' athleticism might suffice. He can run, jump, and offer highlights at the rim, but is he the reliable game in and game out anchor the Lakers envisioned? Critics are skeptical. The front office will also eye the buyout market, hoping for a short-term fix to patch up a roster that now looks thin at one of the league's most important positions. That vulnerability is especially glaring when considering potential playoff matchups. The Western Conference features top-tier big men, none more daunting than reigning MVP contenders who can score inside and out. Having a robust defensive presence at center could be the difference between a deep playoff run and an early exit. Meanwhile, Anthony Davis's health is another wild card. Though unstoppable when he's fully locked in, Davis has faced his share of absences, leaving the Lakers scrambling to fill the void. The plan was to bring in Williams as both an insurance policy and a future building block, someone who could soak up minutes without forcing Davis to shoulder the entire interior burden. Now, with that plan nullified, the team is back to square one, improvising on the fly. The Lakers pride themselves on agility, on pivoting to new solutions quickly, yet the cracks might show. The canceled trade broadcasted to the league that the Lakers are desperate for a dependable five. Rival front offices could exploit this, either by driving up asking prices for their own big men or by hoarding valuable centers to keep LA from strengthening. Still, the Lakers aren't the only ones left scrambling. Charlotte faces a distinct set of problems too. Could this failed deal signal a deeper dilemma for the Hornets? On the other side of this broken transaction stands the Charlotte Hornets, who suddenly have Mark Williams right back on their roster, despite nearly sending him out the door. Before the cancellation, the Hornets had a strong haul lined up, a coveted unprotected future first rounder, a pick swap, and a promising player in Dalton Connect. It was a sizable return for a center, who for all his promise hadn't consistently stayed on the court. Now, that return has vanished. Moreover, the entire league is aware that the Lakers' doctors flagged Williams' health. This awareness might tank his trade value, making it drastically harder for Charlotte to fetch a similar or better package in the future. Teams that might once have been willing to gamble on Williams for a moderate price will likely insist on extensive medical evaluations or lower their offer substantially. For Charlotte, the situation is doubly awkward. They must re-assimilate a young player who knows the organization was ready to part with him. Coaches and teammates must navigate any hurt feelings or fractured trust that might linger. While basketball is a business, players are human, and feeling discarded can weigh on performance and morale. Furthermore, the Hornets now have to answer questions about why they were so eager to move Williams in the first place. Did they suspect something about his health that they weren't fully transparent about? Or did they simply feel it was the best time to sell high on a young, somewhat unproven talent? Whichever the case, the front office risks looking duplicitous if it tries to convince fans that Williams is still a cornerstone after all this drama. One thing's for sure, Charlotte's future feels murkier now than before. If Williams continues to display the same potential that once excited so many scouts, and he stays healthy, it might lead fans to question the team's decision to trade him. Conversely, if his injuries mount, or if he struggles to find consistent playing time, the Hornets front office may come under fire for not capitalizing on what once looked like a golden opportunity to offload him for a treasure chest of assets. In the end, this entire saga raises one pressing question. Did the Lakers dodge a bullet, or did they overreact to whispers that might never become reality? A single failed physical has rippled across two franchises with very different aspirations. The Lakers, caught between urgent championship goals and the desire to secure their post-LeBron future, ultimately decided the long-term risk outweighed the short-term reward. It's a decision that could define their roster strategy for years to come. Even if they find a temporary fix at center, they'll always wonder whether they missed out on a generational talent who could have anchored their defense for a decade. For Charlotte, losing what would have been a substantial return for Williams is a blow. The franchise must now either recommit to him or scramble for a new trade partner that's willing to look past potentially damning medical reports. Rumors will swirl, fans will debate, and Mark Williams himself is stuck in the middle, determined to prove his doubters wrong, or simply trying to stay healthy enough to grow into his potential. In an NBA world where big men remain a hot commodity and every detail of a player's health can make or break a deal, this situation underscores how fragile high-stakes trades can be. One moment, a team sees you as the missing puzzle piece. The next, they're pulling out of the deal altogether. For better or worse, this story reminds us that even perfect trades can implode at the final hurdle, leaving everyone to wonder what might have been. So was this collapse a sign that the Lakers avoided a disastrous gamble, or did they walk away from a future star? Only time and Mark Williams' ongoing career will reveal the true impact of this last-minute reversal. For now, we can only watch closely, wait for the next chapter to unfold, and speculate on what might happen if another franchise decides it's worth rolling the dice on Williams. And with that, we come to the end of this saga, but the implications for both the Lakers and the Hornets may be just beginning.